Hey guys, welcome back. Robocraft early access coverage. This is episode 14. I'm Enigmius, and today we're starting off by testing the Stalker in a real match. This isn't the first match, but this is one of the better ones. I think this is the third match that I brought this guy into. We're going to talk a little bit about why we didn't show you the first or the second. And then we're going to tear it apart. That's right. This is one of the shortest lived bots that I've made. I can't say it's the shortest, and I can't say that it is uncommon for me to tear apart a relatively new bot after having tested it in a match or two. The primary thing about this bot is that it's extremely front heavy. You might notice already climbing up over that ridge how the whole bot was shaking and doing all kinds of crazy stuff going over top because the front of the vehicle is just so heavy. Now, one of the things that I've noticed, and it's to the credit of a lot of the plasma bomber pilots, is that one of the tactics that they use very well is they'll fly around the outer edge of the map and then circle around behind any enemy vehicles that are up on this ridge that so many of the maps have, and basically catch them unaware. And usually by the time they get all the way around, the vehicle that they start attacking from behind is already engaged with someone else and can't really just completely disengage and duck for cover. So that's something to be aware of, something that I tried to be aware of in this case, but tunnel vision. I saw the guy up front and he's hiding. He doesn't want any of this. But see, this is kind of actually a very functional strategic sort of thing, is I'm using my laser intentionally to kind of keep this guy aware that he's my focus. And he was actually focused so much on me that he backed over the edge of the cliff as one of my teammates was shooting him in the butt. So sometimes it's not the shot that you fire that ends up destroying the enemy. It's the one that you don't fire that just kind of keeps them focused on you instead of death from behind. You see, one shot, some poor little brick tank. What can you say? I mean, it's a rail vehicle that's up on a ridge with long range. The fog and the haze in this map seems especially bad. You can see all I can really see at this range coming up towards our base is the nameplates of the enemies, and occasionally I'll see a little bit of lighting. Just a little bit of lighting that moves along with the nameplate, so I shoot at the lighting and I always miss. So it's not the little things that you can get with Galaxy credits or whatever, Galaxy Cash, that leave the trail. It's just some sort of lighting, electroplates or something like that. See, the only reason I know that there's guys over there is not because my team is spotting them. Oh no. It's because every once in a while I see the little wee silhouette fly in front of the column of light. And at this point, there's not a lot of reason for me to be trying to get closer so I can get a better view of what's going on over there, because we've got such a dominating lead in the capturing process that I don't need to worry about it. It's basically a done deal. The match is over. We win. Hooray! And then the bot has to die. Now the reason is because it's so front heavy that if it takes any kind of damage that causes me to lose a leg, it really messes up the ability to control the vehicle. It's not hard to knock the legs off of a walker. In fact, knocking the legs off a walker is probably one of the easiest things you could do to damage a walker, because the legs are so damn big. It's not difficult to get a shot off and hit the legs. So all of this front heavy kind of nonsense has got to go. And I decided the best way to handle this, I was going to make some adjustments, and then I thought, you know what, we're making so many changes, it'll actually be faster and easier to strip it down to the bare bones and start over. And when I say bare bones, I mean pretty much all we're going to have is about a 3-block wide spine left with the driver's seat in place, and maybe some thrusters I think we left on there. But mostly just kind of giving ourselves a fresh canvas to work from rather than trying to constantly modify. And you can see that this is actually going to be a theme for this episode, is sometimes it's easier to just start over than it is to modify. And it's not because we're doing anything with the Triforce / Armor Core stuff. It's because it's literally so many different components placed for specific reasons, and we have to move things around and readjust them. Then we'd have to remove all those extra components and then replace them. Just start over. That's really all it is. And you can see, first thing that we're doing is we're building up a little bit of extra defense around the thrusters, not because I had problems losing the thrusters, but because it's not hard and it's not expensive, and it gives things a better look to them. So if someone is taking a look at my vehicle and consciously making a choice where they want to fire, their eye is going to go for the weakest points that they can see. They're not going to go for the area that looks like a brick wall. So that's good. That's going to work in our favor. And I'm specifically speeding this process up and doing a fair bit more editing, not because I want to deprive you guys of the build process, but because this build as well ends up getting torn down. It's just one of those things. So you can see, same as we've been doing everything up to this point, is we kind of get an idea of where we want to put things, and then we build the structure out to accommodate those things. Right now we've got very much a bare bones kind of structure, intentionally putting the legs on now so that we can get a feel for how it might perform with just these. I added it out, the little scene in the practice map where I was kind of jumping around and being silly. Everything seems to be working nicely early on up to this point. And just in the process of building out the skeleton to accommodate all the things that I wanted, I realized maybe we'll just do like a crazy skeleton kind of build. We aren't necessarily going to make it look like it's fleshed out and solid, but we'll make all of these different components just kind of individual spines. All the armor core, just prisms back to back, reinforcing with tetras where we have the opportunity, and mostly just kind of having a little bit of fun, seeing how it works. The main thing here is that we're going to be shifting the weight away from the front of the vehicle, while at the same time preserving the whole concept of this sloped vehicle so that we can get better use out of the railguns. I still want to have 4 railguns. I feel like anything fewer than 4 railguns is kind of a waste. My tier 4 or tier 5 rail sled, whatever it is, has only 3 railguns, and I feel kind of like it's on the bottom end in terms of what I'd be willing to work with, just because of how long it takes to reload. If you only had 1 or 2 guns and you fire once or twice and then you have to wait 15 or 20 seconds before you can fire again, it's kind of like it's taking you out of the game before you've really had a chance to do anything. Railguns aren't that powerful that you can get so much out of those 1 or 2 shots that you really be happy with it. I just can't. So the people who do the helium thing, the blimps with the railgun dangling from the bottom, and that's fine with them, that's so damn boring. It's not even about lame or, getting involved in the fighting or anything like that. It's just so damn boring to be sitting there waiting for someone to shoot you while you're reloading. So now we've got 3 guns on, and I realized that this whole diamond pattern, 1 in the back, 2 in the middle, 1 in the front, not necessary, especially if we're going to make things fit without having the gun orientation basically take up the entire vehicle. So using the armor core / Triforce sort of thing to create a little bit of a skeleton loop, spinal loop, bone loop. I'm very careful about using the word bone too much, because sooner or later I'm going to say it in the wrong context and everyone's going to get the wrong kind of chuckle out of it, including me. So we have to be careful. You can see what I mean. It's basically, instead of doing like a block platform, we use it with the prisms, with the understanding that there could be certain circumstances where hitting in the right spot could actually knock off more prisms than we would have lost if they were made out of cubes. But there's never going to be a case where hitting the vehicle is going to have less of an armor value with prisms than it would if it had cubes. It's going to be equal or better in any given situation. So that's the reason why we're doing that. And then we take it into a match. Again, jumping quite a bit ahead, you can see I've added some extra cladding, all the tier 7, the yellow blocks all over the place. And just like we did with the previous builds, I could show you exactly where and how I put those blocks on. And there'll be time for that in future builds, but for now it's not super important. So you can see we've got 4 guns, 2 on the back, 2 on the front. Not nearly so top heavy. It's actually a little bit more in the back, the weight. But overall, it's fairly well balanced. And then we head into this. I had a lot of trouble on this map with this kind of vehicle, just the rail walker, because the terrain is so uneven around all of the cliffs and ending up on my back, even though all the thruster stuff that I was setting up for myself so that I could easily flip myself over again. Quite a pain in the ass. Now, ultimately, this was not a bad vehicle. Actually, I found I could probably have been very, very happy with it. Of course, understanding as I level up and I get higher CPU capacity, probably unlock the tier 8 blocks and start swapping some of those in, that the vehicle would just improve over time. The one difficulty, unfortunately, that I had was that I went and I unlocked the tier 9 railguns. And they are 1 block wider in terms of the radius. So everything that's on this vehicle, the 2 back guns and the 2 front guns, would have to go out 1 block each. And I think when I was testing it, I also would have had to reorient the front or the back to give them some distance from the other one. So if I wanted to change the front, I would have to move it forward. Then this guy, of course, the railgun versus railgun. But it's not railgun versus railgun. It's railgun versus plasma. And I'm just kind of doing my best to not get killed. What can you say? Anyways, point being, tier 9 rails meant that we would have to make a lot of adjustments to this vehicle, and I actually made some adjustments. I got all 4 railguns fitted on the vehicle, and I looked at it, and it wasn't adequate. When you're talking about adding things on, if it's just adding a couple of extra prisms and then plonking it in this little platform that you made that's now extending outside of the protective sort of shell that you made for it, that's not good for me. And I kind of looked at what I would have had to do in order to accommodate it properly, and it was the exact same reason as the last one. We could have made the changes, but it would have been faster and easier to start over, which I did. I started over, and then I saw in the comments, one of the videos, someone asking for the idea of a hybrid vehicle. For example, a rail walker flyer. And that would, for me, address one of the biggest concerns that I've had with both of these vehicles that I've been bringing into matches with the railguns and the legs, is that it takes so long to get into position that quite often I feel as though I'm not contributing as much as I could be, and consequently my teams aren't winning as many matches as they could. All it takes is one extra kill on one side to shift the balance one way or the other. And if I can create a vehicle that I could, for example, at the beginning of a match, just jump and fly to a vantage point, kind of like an Overwatch scouting position, and then quickly and easily relocate to other places throughout the match just by jumping and then flying, I think that could be cool. And I think it would be a nice way to start a new build with a slightly more advanced concept. For example, we've got 2 walkers that we've built now. You can see that they're basically the same, with the main difference that the guns are in different positions, and of course the body is slightly different style, but the concepts are basically there. So now if we take that front flip concept and turn it into something that we can use with wings, then that's definitely something that we want to look at. So that's what we're going to do in the next episode. We're going to start on that build. I have to do a little bit of farming to buy the wings, and I'd like to get that farming done before the Halloween event is over so that I can get the bat wings. And then we'll do that. We'll get 4 tier 9 rails on a flying walker and see if we can't mess up the enemy. So if you want to be notified when I add that video, you can subscribe to my channel. Of course, you can also follow me on the social media. Links for that are in the information section below the video. Please, by all means, leave your comments and feedback. Very useful and very helpful. Thanks for watching, guys, and take care.